Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really diving into something practical, something quite profound, actually. It's chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita, often called the chapter of Karma Yoga. And you've pulled together some fantastic sources for us. We've got ancient analyses, modern takes, the whole spectrum. Our goal, to pull out the key wisdom here, understand action, duty, liberation, and how these old teachings might actually work in your life today. So let's jump right in. This idea of action. Can we really stop? Or are we just, built to be moving?
Yeah, that's central. And the sources are pretty unanimous on this. Basically, no one can be truly inactive, not even for a second. We're all sort of pushed into action by nature's qualities, sattva, rajas, tamas, goodness, passion, inertia, even just breathing, your heart beating. Those are actions, constant actions. So yeah, to be alive is to be acting, constantly.
Okay, so even if I sit completely still, trying for that nothingness, there's still a ton happening, internally, biologically.
Exactly, yeah. Life itself is this dynamic thing between the observer, that's our conscious self, and everything else, the observed world. This interaction, this constant change, cause and effect, the flow of time. Well, that is karma in its essence.
Right.
But if action is so natural, so fundamental, why does it often feel like a trap? Why does it lead to suffering sometimes?
Good question. It's usually not the action itself causing the suffering. It's more about our attachment to what happens after the action, the results, and also this deep-seated illusion that we are the sole doer, the karta. The observer self thinks it's running the whole show, taking credit for everything, even random stuff like putting on green glasses and saying, wow, I painted the world green. It's often the ego driving that, wanting to be the cause,
So this doer identity, this karta, that's where we get tangled up. We sort of create our own suffering by holding on to that. That's the idea. And karma yoga, well, that's presented as the way out. It teaches act, definitely act, but without getting hooked on the fruits, the outcomes. The famous line, karmanyevadikaraste ma phalashukatachana.
Yes.
You have the right to work, but never to the fruits of work. Powerful stuff. But what does that look like, practically speaking? It means pouring yourself into the doing, into the process itself, letting go of the anxiety about how it'll turn out. When you act selflessly like that, the action itself becomes a kind of offering, a yajna or sacred service. And this isn't just about, religious rituals. It's about doing your duties, whatever they are, as part of a bigger picture, serving others, serving something higher. The sources suggest this pleases cosmic forces, brings prosperity. Some even say, consuming without giving back first. That's like being a thief. It emphasizes contribution. And practicing this helps cultivate samatva. It's like an inner balance, equanimity, being able to face joy and sorrow, gain and loss, winning and losing, all with a kind of steady mind. This detachment, it stops those mental patterns, those samskaras and lingering desires from building up. The things said to keep us stuck in cycles.
Okay, so it's not about sitting back and doing nothing. It's about skill in the action, doing things in a way that doesn't create more baggage. That yoga, karma sukashalam idea.
Right.
But what about when? Well, when we do things we know are wrong. The Gita talks about feeling compelled, almost forced. What drives that?
Yeah, Krishna points directly at kama. It's often translated as lust, but it's broader. Like intense consuming desire. It comes from that quality of passion, Rajaguna. And when that desire gets blocked, it flips into anger. The image used is like thick smoke covering a fire or dust on a mirror. It clouds your judgment, your intellect, pushes you into actions you regret. And this desire, it sets up shop in our senses, our mind, our intellect. It keeps tricking us, So the path to getting free involves getting a handle on those parts of ourselves, dismantling this engine of sin, as it's sometimes called.
Okay, so with all this complexity, how do we figure out our right action, our nayat karma, especially today with so many choices, so many pressures?
Well, Krishna says, Nyatam kuru karma, do your prescribed duty. But the sources are careful to explain what that doesn't just mean. It's not only about automatic body stuff, breathing and all that. And it's not strictly limited to old social roles or caste duties either, despite how it's sometimes interpreted. What's really interesting is how the Gita kind of redefines things. Nyat karma, in this deeper sense, is basically any action that moves you towards your ultimate goal. Liberation, mukti, or, union with the divine, Brahman or Atma in Shastra or scripture. It's not just any old book. It's specifically the text that guides you towards that liberation. The Gita presents itself as that, you see. And Dharma, it's really about steering yourself towards freedom, way beyond just surface-level rituals.
So when it talks about a dharma yuddha or a righteous war, it's less about actual battlefields and more about the inner fight, fighting for your true self against those binding forces inside.
That's a key interpretation, yes. An internal struggle for your essence.
Okay, to make this really land, sometimes stories help, don't they? Our sources mention a specific story connected to Chapter 3 that illustrates its power. Can you share that?
Right, there's this traditional tale. It's about a man described as foolish who loses everything because a thief gets killed and ends up as a suffering ghost. Pretty grim. His son, wanting to help his father find peace, goes to the tree where he died and recites Chapter 3 of the Gita just once. And the effect, according to the story, is immediate and huge. The father is instantly freed from being a ghost, gets a divine form. He then asks his son, "Do it again, free our ancestors." So the son recites it again and supposedly liberates 7 generations from suffering in hell.
Wow, that's quite a story. It definitely shows how much transformative power has traditionally been attributed to engaging with this chapter, doesn't it? Which brings us back to today. How do these ancient ideas actually help us now? With our modern stresses, competition, information overload?
They're surprisingly practical, actually. Take stress reduction. That focus on the action, not the result. It cuts down massively on anxiety about outcomes, about competition. You just focus on doing your best now. That naturally leads to more mental stability, right? Even when things are hectic. Then there's ethics and responsibility. Karma yoga encourages integrity, doing your work, whatever it is, job, family, community stuff with the spirit of service, dedication. It promotes acting for the good of the world, what the Gita calls loksangra.
Yeah, I see that focus on the process itself.
And that ties into skill and action too. Yoga, karma kashalam. It means bringing your full focused mind, intellect, your whole being to what you're doing. That applies to anything you undertake. And for young people especially, it offers a sense of purpose and resilience. Living for something bigger than just personal gain, learning to handle success and failure with balance, that builds real self-reliance, doesn't it?
Definitely. Facing challenges without getting totally derailed by the outcome.
Exactly. And even in leadership or administration, the principles apply. Ethical conduct, impartiality, dedication. It fosters fairness, transparency.
It really does sound like a very practical philosophy, not just pie-in-the-sky stuff, but tools for a more balanced and meaningful life right now. So wrapping up this deep dive into Chapter 3, it seems clear action is unavoidable. We're always acting.
Yeah.
But how we act attached or detached well, that shapes our whole experience, our destiny even.
Precisely. The key is turning everyday actions, mundane or major, into a path towards freedom. Letting go of that ego-driven, I am the doer idea and, consciously working on those inner desires.
So maybe something for you to think about as you go through your day. There's that saying from the sources. There's no lack in God's court, but the devotee doesn't find joy due to fault in service. What service are you doing in your actions? And how could you bring more muj, that kind of zestful joy, that presence into it? Maybe through a little more detachment, even when things are tough. What's just one thing you could do today? Not for the reward, but purely for the act itself, dedicated to your highest self. Something to consider.